love to hear questions. And in case anybody doesn't have the slides, this is the QR code for them as well. In case you missed that the first time around and you'd like to look back on them. Yeah, any questions?
Oh, good question. If you can do a couple of things. You can wait and just let them fall over naturally and live with that kind of messy look. You can cut them down and leave, 12, 15 inches, about this much. And whatever you cut down, leave it where it falls, and if there are any overwintering insect larvae in those stems that you've cut, they'll still hatch.
So don't ever clean them all where they grow.
If you can avoid it and you can personally tolerate it, that is what's best, is to leave them, because there are some insects that take 2 years to develop inside of the stems. So if you can tolerate it, that's ideal. But I know that not everybody can. Sometimes, you're right by the road.
I have seen, at the Native Plant Trust, they will, where they can't leave them, they'll cut them and bundle them and set them aside someplace. Our bee expert might know more about how effective that is, but that is one, I've seen it done at the Native Plant Trust.
You talked a lot about flowers that have berries, all these berries, it's great for the birds, but I mean, how toxic are these berries to dogs and cats?
Most of them aren't. There aren't a ton of, I don't think we went over any plants that have any sort of toxic berries. If anything, humans can eat most of these berries.
They just taste so bad you wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
And there is, this is not on my resource links. There is a website that you can go to that lists toxic plants that are toxic to dogs and cats.
Jumping worms, if you have them or seen them in your yard, how do you know if they're gone or how do you get rid of them?
They don't go,
Let me
unfortunately.
tell my story.
Yeah.
My husband is here and he'll probably laugh because he thought I was insane, but I did make a dent in them. I was obsessed with jumping worms for a whole summer. 2 years ago, I think it was, 3 years ago, and I would go around almost every day and roll over logs and lift up rocks and if you poke the soil, it's like a horror story. They kind of come straight up out of the soil. And you grab them and I go around with my bucket of death, which is water with a splash of vinegar in it. If you put them in plain water, they will crawl out. If you put them in a bucket, so I tell them, and you can put down like a throw rug and keep it wet, and they're very shallow living. So after doing that, I saw a significant reduction in the damage that they were doing in their castings and in the numbers. And then they'll build back up. And last year was a incredible drought, so they didn't reproduce quite as much. But I'm probably gonna have to start getting crazy with it again this year.
Do the birds not eat them?
Nope.
It's hard
Well,
because they're
they get
so
huge.
large, right?
They call them snake worms because they will get this big.
By the end of the year.
As my finger and they look like snakes.
There's not really much that does that, although mold have seen a correlation between a lot of our properties that have mold problems also tend to have a fair amount of snake worms, because I think that, yeah, there's not a lot of studies on this, it's relatively new, but the voles do tend to eat these snake worms.
But they get so big that the birds can't eat them.
But other than that, there's not really a natural control.
There's no natural predators.
So you should go and you should be hideous mold.
That's a hard one.
Feel like, okay, you can stay here.
Yeah,
They're
well,
doing their
you'll
part. They're
sacrifice some
eating the
plants.
things that are, yeah, but
It's all balanced. Win some, we win some.
Why do they sell invasives in the stores?
Because people plant them.
yeah, because they can make a lot of money.
People buy them. No, it doesn't. But the more we start asking for
Or complaining when we see them. I think that
Especially
that's
the
something that
invasives.
needs to be done more.
Non-natives, as I was saying, is one thing, but the invasives is
Especially known invasives that have been known for decades, like barberry and burning bush. There's absolutely no excuse for them to be in our garden centers right now. It is completely profit driven, and the more we complain and kind of make a stink about that, the better it'll be. Yes.
Any ideas for poison ivy? Some plant you could plant that might help.
Here's where I come down on poison ivy. First of all, learn to identify it. Because as Doug Talmy says, poison ivy is only a problem when you try to get rid of it. But what I've also recently come to appreciate is that it's really important food for migrating birds in the fall. Very important plant. And there's certainly not a lack of it, so they've got a lot of food, but if it's not any place where you're gonna be spending a lot of time, I let it go. And I'm really good at spotting it at all stages of.
It just shows up everywhere.
It does, because the birds eat the berries and then they.
Yes.
And it's so, ultimately, it's a really hardy plant, it's super abundant, and with a lot of like the climate change projections, with more carbon being in the atmosphere, poison ivy is one of those plants that like really thrives on that. So a lot of studies have been shown that poison ivy is getting bigger and growing more vigorously year to year because it's one of those fast adapting plants that can utilize our higher carbon atmosphere. It's not great news for anybody who's allergic to it.
If you need to kill poison ivy or anything else, I don't advocate, I should put a picture of this in. I don't advocate, obviously, herbicides, but I have something that I call my poison pen. And I will cut something and just paint the stump with glyphosate concentrate. And what that does is it keeps that poison in the root system of the plant you're trying to kill.
Especially during the fall.
Glyphosate,
Glyphosate, it's Roundup,
I call it like poison
unfortunately.
pen. Glyphosate is what?
Yeah, it's Roundup.
What is Roundup?
But yes, it's concentrated and it's not broadly sprayed. You're not applying it to the overall environment. You're not letting it run off the street. It's concentrated. You cut the stem and you put it right on there. Especially in the fall because the plants are always like sucking all of their nutrients into their roots. That'll kill it off relatively quick. Of course, there's a lot of glyphosate resistance because we use it on our crops and everything else. But it's still one of our better tools for managing invasive plants in our landscapes.
If you're having a pollinator garden, you use pollinator pathway, and you use that to kill poison ivy, are you breaking the rules?
I can answer that, no, because it kills just that one plant. And what we'll do, since this is obviously a subject of interest, is we'll make sure that we put up a Facebook post with more information, because I know it's a lot to sort of absorb. The pesticides that we're talking about are when you spray, when you do this with the roots, it's different.
It's not getting any
It's not-
non-target.
It doesn't go anywhere but on what you're trying to kill.
That's
And it
what
doesn't,
you also do Japanese barberry or
Yeah.
oriental.
Yep.
yeah, you could do your burning bush, you could do any of that, because it's targeted just to go into that root system. It's when you start spraying, this is different than sprays. It's when you start spraying and, you have somebody come in and that's what we're talking about. Putting stuff on your lawn, all of that. This is very, very different. So, because that's, obviously I saw a lot of heads like, oh, okay, that's something that we'll address. So you have the information specific to that.
Yeah, I just realized I keep going to this side, I'll get to you, I promise.
So I have a very large field we're hoping to turn into a pollinator area. In the meantime, we've been getting rid of all the horrible species that you could ever imagine, your worst nightmare. And we're trying to put in ground cover right now just to hold back. Is there an annual ground cover that you recommend to stop the other stuff?
I would look into cover crops, honestly. A lot of times they're used in,
When people are trying to establish a meadow, which is something very difficult and time consuming over years to establish. But, yeah, there's,
especially like legume
Yeah.
type cover crops, they'll impart nitrogen into the soil and a lot of them grow very quickly, so they'll outcompete other weeds. And then they don't have to be like ripped up before you go in and plant, you know, your desirable seeds. They can often be, you know, just cut down or tilled right into the soil because they are beneficial.
So there, what is this,
I would look up cover crops.
there's also, they keep telling me clover, clover I'm finding is.
Clover now. There is, I'm gonna throw it to Marjorie for a second.
Yeah.
Because Marjorie said that what they did on Almsbrook Boulevard, the crop that you put on that, where the culvert is, it was ryegrass, it was something.
Oh, there's an annual ryegrass that you could put in, it's only annual. But you could also use buckwheat as a cover crop, that's one. And then I've also heard for establishing a meadow, using an annual rudbeckia. Like
Rebecca.
Yeah,
There
that's one of the
is-
first plants when you get successional growth going on.
I think there's something on the ELA website about this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Ecological Landscape Alliance.
We'll make a note of that as well. That's a question that does come up again, as, you know, in addition. So I'm actually gonna need to just maybe one more, and I know there was somebody.
Blackberry kind of growing all over my house. Are they native or should they're very,
Most of them are natives, yes.
but they are
Very aggressive.
Have they been ever cultivated that? Can you make it manageable, like,
With a lot of work, it's intense work to keep it, and you can mow them, where you, to help keep them down. But they're really
They are labor intensive. A lot of yes, they are native, and a lot of the times we have properties where people are trying to keep a patch of them, especially for food growing purposes. We cut through and we cut them at like around like knee height or so, just to make sure that, you know, so you're not walking by them and they're cutting you up and things like that to get the new growth going on for the year. Just makes them a little bit more manageable. Other than that, mowing them in areas that you're trying to get through is kind of one of the best solutions.
back in the spring?
Yeah, put them back in the spring.
So, thank you very much. We are very fortunate that we have Lisa and Madison, Kyle, who presented about these, is in the back, Marjorie is here. There are a number of resources that we have tapped into. They're volunteers who come here and share their knowledge, so we are deeply appreciative of that because it enables us to do this. And I want to tell you that the library let us know, because we've been averaging between 85 and 90 people at these, we have had the largest presentations that the library has ever seen. Great stuff, because it means you want to do this, and it means you care, and that's a great thing. Really quickly, there are two things. There are people at the Grange who asked me to let you know this, and there's a flyer back on our table, which is they're having a series on beavers, where they're doing, it's a wildlife docu-series at the Grange. And then we have posted this already on our Facebook page, and Marjorie?
I just wanted to say Roaring Brook Nature Center is having a program on dark skies, about lighting, and that's gonna be on next weekend.
I
So,
will make sure that we do that.
Okay.
So note that one of the things, dark skies is the idea that, for those who aren't familiar with, is that it's lights out, you put your lights on the outside on motion detectors, because at night, there are still pollinators out, there are moths, there are all sorts of insects that are there, and it disrupts fireflies if you have outside lights on, et cetera. So it's actually not a great thing, and I know that some people have concerns about safety, and actually, if you have a motion detector, that's more of a deterrent than having lights on all the time that people can sort of see. So that is another initiative. We'll make sure that we share from Roaring Brook. I spend a lot of time on Facebook. And going, just for all of you, but going through and finding out, yeah, you're welcome. So finding things like this, and what's happening, which is really great, is that we're connecting more and more. The pollinator pathway is connecting with groups in towns and outside of Simsbury as well. And that's really the whole point, is for everybody to sort of come together and work towards the same goal. We also are going to to speak to some of the native plants that they were talking about, and I swear by that book, by the way. It's great. And I will, Facebook page, take a picture of mine and put it on. Yeah, it's great.
Native Plant Trust, sells it.
Native Plant Trust is amazing, and that book is really great for those of us who are, not as knowledgeable as the people who are presenting, and I include myself in that. It's an easy to follow primer that says, this is where it goes, that kind of thing.
There's another one of theirs that I really, this one is really great too, and it's also, you can purchase it through the Native Plant Trust, Native Plants for New England Gardens.
So, and one thing that we are gonna be doing, our Facebook page on Wednesdays, Allison, who is back there, wave Allison. Allison is the person who is giving us the bird information, if anybody's seen that, we have Bird of the Week. And Allison shows us her photography, she talks about the birds that you can see in your backyard. Tammy, who is back there waiting, is going to start one tree, one shrub, one flower. So each week, she'll have a post about one tree, and then another one about one shrub, and another one about flowers. So we're doing our best to get the information out there. We do have a website, we're gonna actually be upgrading that soon, with more information, and I want to give you the email that I use for the pollinator pathway, because that way, if you have questions about any of this, which again helps us, if you're asking us questions, then we know that that's the kind of information that we need to put out there. So if you're interested in getting in touch and saying nice things, it's Simsbury, and then POLL, Path, PATH, Simsbury Paul Path at Gmail. And that's also on the website, and it's also on the Facebook page, so you can get in touch with me. And feel free to email us and ask questions, and if you have ideas for a space that you think is something around town that would be a great project, let us know. We always are looking for things that people feel is important, and if you want to get involved, all of those, we're here. So thank you so much. We will be doing this again with other subjects later on, but this has been great, and from us to you, thank you for caring so much. Thank you.
If I can, I want to try to grab a picture of all the presenters real quick before you leave. Because everyone's here right now. So.
All right, good.
Bye, Marjorie. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
I'll see you Monday.
We'll talk about
I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you Monday anyway.
I just gotta grab them real quick. Mine's back here, so.